Lok Sabha is the beacon of parliamentary democracy, not just within the country but throughout the whole world. And in this Lok Sabha, if the constitutional post of Deputy Speaker has been lying vacant since the last 6 years, it makes us question the entire constitutional framework and the constitutional accountability of Lok Sabha as a house of parliament. So the role of Deputy Speaker in the country is not ceremonial. It ensures accountability, it ensures smooth functioning and balanced power sharing between the ruling party and the opposition. This prolonged vacancy definitely questions the accountability of the government and the accountability of Lok Sabha as an institution in itself in upholding the democratic principles and values to its core. So what is the exact reason? What are the constitutional provisions for the office of Deputy Speaker of Lok Sabha? What are the functions and the powers of Deputy Speaker? And all the other things, historical background combined, all the other things related to this particular office, we'll be trying to understand in this particular session. Hello, my name is Preetpal Singh and you're watching Perspective. So according to the Article 92 of our Indian Constitution, it states that the Lok Sabha must elect a speaker and a deputy speaker from amongst its members as soon as may be. Although there is no specific time frame which has been mentioned in Article 93 as to in how much time speaker and deputy speaker should be elected by the House. But definitely it is written that as soon as may be. But there is another article, that is Article 94, which ensures that the deputy speaker remains in office till resignation or removal or disqualification, underlining the rule's continuity and constitution makers thought of making deputy speaker's position and office as a very integral one in the constitution and in the political framework of our country. Now the date of election of deputy speaker is communicated and decided by the Speaker of the House, Speaker of the Lok Sabha. Speaker decides the date and communicate the date to the members through parliamentary bulletin. And also the election is conducted via ballot paper vote. Now if we talk about the tenure and removal, the deputy speaker remains in office until the dissolution of Lok Sabha, which usually happens every 5 years, or unless removed earlier by a resolution passed by the majority members of Lok Sabha. In either of the cases, the person who is the deputy speaker ceases to be in the office. Also, the position is also vacated if a deputy speaker ceases to be a member of parliament. So if the deputy speaker ceases to be a member of parliament, in that case as well, they have to leave the office. And also, if deputy speaker's seat falls vacant, the member of the house may elect a new deputy speaker, as the case might be. But since the last 6 years, we haven't elected a deputy speaker in Lok Sabha, which is very worrisome, and it makes us question the constitutional morality and the constitutional guidelines being followed by the Lok Sabha or not. Now, if you look at the position of deputy speaker in the order of precedence in the country, in official hierarchy, the deputy speaker ranks 10th. Alongside the Deputy Chairman of the Rajya Sabha, Union Minister of States, and members of the Planning Commission. And if we talk about the powers and functioning of the Deputy Speaker, it should be absolutely clear in your mind that a Deputy Speaker assists the Speaker in ensuring smooth functioning of the lower house and the most important house of the Parliament, that is Lok Sabha. Additional to this, in the absence of speaker or whenever the position of the speaker is lying vacant, it is the deputy speaker who presides over the proceedings and who takes over the proceedings and the work of the speaker and who presides over the proceedings and perform all the associated duties of the speaker in times of speaker's absence or when the speaker's office is vacant. Also, one more integral thing to understand here is that if deputy speaker is nominated to any of the legislative parliamentary committee, the deputy speaker automatically becomes the chairman of that particular committee. So that is how powerful the role of deputy speaker is in the parliamentary functioning of our democracy. Now, one more interesting fact is that unlike the speaker, who's not actually allowed to participate in the debates ongoing in the house, they can only preside over the debates. Unlike the speaker, if speaker is presiding over any debate in the house, deputy speaker has the ability and capacity to participate in the debates as a member of parliament. So deputy speaker can participate in the debates and can also vote in matters as an ordinary member if the speaker is presiding over the house. But while deputy speaker is presiding over the house, then deputy speaker may only cast a casting vote. That's all. So only in the event of a tie, the deputy speaker can cast a vote if deputy speaker is the one who's proceeding in the house. But if speaker is presiding over the house, in that case, deputy speaker can, as a normal member of parliament, vote and can debate. And one more thing is that due to convention or as a convention, Deputy Speaker usually does not endorse or sponsor a bill or does not sponsor a resolution and also does not raise questions in the Parliament in the Lok Sabha. Also, the salary of Deputy Speaker is drawn from the Consolidated Fund of India, which is not subject to any parliamentary approval. That is also a very important thing to understand. And there is one more article in our Constitution, Article 93, Article 94 we have already seen. There is Article 95 to our Constitution which states that Deputy Speaker's duty is to maintain order, discipline and adjourn proceedings in Speaker's absence. This is Article 95 which states that. Also, there is one article, Article 96, which simply states that when a motion for the removal of Deputy Speaker is in place, of course after a 14 days window, after a 14-day advance notice, the thing is that in that case, Deputy Speaker cannot preside but is allowed to vote. So when a motion is there in the House, in the Lok Sabha, in the lower house of the Parliament, against the Deputy Speaker for Deputy Speaker's removal, in that case, Deputy Speaker can't preside over the House. But is the Deputy Speaker allowed the right to vote? The answer is yes, as a normal member of Parliament is allowed the right to vote, but not a casting vote because Deputy Speaker can't preside over the House in that case. Now, since these things are very clear in your mind, you have to know one thing. Traditionally, out of convention, usually the Deputy Speaker's post is given to the person who is in opposition. Usually, the Speaker becomes the Speaker through convention only. Speaker is elected from the ruling party and Deputy Speaker is elected from the opposition party. And this informal practice as a convention, because it is not written anywhere, there is no constitutional provision for it. This informal practice has been going on since last many decades just to foster more cooperation and collaboration between the ruling government and between the opposition as well, so that smooth functioning of the House can take place. And in some cases, speakers would preside, in some cases, Deputy Speaker would preside, so that smooth functioning of the House is ensured and perspective from different spectrums can be heard within the House and good quality debates can happen. So in the last Lok Sabha, that is the 17th Lok Sabha from 2019 to 2024, there was no Deputy Speaker appointed in the Lok Sabha. That is a very wrong convention. And the ongoing vacancy, that is in the 18th Lok Sabha, which is from 2024 to 2029, again in this Lok Sabha as well, no Deputy Speaker till now, while we are recording this video till now, no Deputy Speaker has been appointed. So this vacancy definitely highlights the failure of the government opposition to reach to a common minimum ground and to reach to a consensus as to who should become the Deputy Speaker. It clearly shows that. And as you would know, this prolonged vacancy, which was there in the last Lok Sabha, which is there in the current Lok Sabha, it definitely violates, in principle, in morality, it definitely violates the constitutional provisions of Article 93, 94, 95, as we have already discussed. See, we have to see this issue in a very broader light, in a very broader lens. India is a parliamentary democracy. And India is the largest democracy in the entire world, not the oldest, but the largest democracy. 1.4 billion population we have, and we have a parliamentary democracy. In such a democracy, we have two houses, Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha. Lok Sabha is the lower house who forms the government in the country, central government in the country. Now, in that Lok Sabha, which is very critical for formation of bills, passing acts in the country, and maintaining rules and regulations in the country, in that Lok Sabha, if Deputy Speaker's position is vacant, it definitely makes us question the constitutional morale of Lok Sabha as a house. And many experts, they highlight that the parliamentary system in India, it has followed the Westminster tradition, which is dependent on structured debates and mutual accountability. If Deputy Speaker's position remains vacant, it might question the whole idea of parliamentary stability in the country. And according to many experts, without the Deputy Speaker in place, the resilience of the democratic ecosystem in the country is compromised, especially the parliamentary ecosystem, especially in the scenarios of resignation or incapacitation of Speaker to preside over the Lok Sabha. If Speaker is in any way or manner not able to preside in the proceedings of Lok Sabha, in that case, if Deputy Speaker is not present, it might pose a very bad imbalance to the parliamentary continuity, and also it might erode the parliamentary stability in the country and could lead to a constitutional crisis also. So which in a way is a very bad implication of not having a Deputy Speaker. That is one. Another bad implication of not having a Deputy Speaker is misinterpretation of the Constitution. Now this also highlighted by several experts. They say that the Article 93 very clearly states that Deputy Speaker and Speaker should be appointed, should be elected as soon as may be. Which means there is no fixed timeline, but definitely the constitution makers, by writing as soon as may be, definitely wanted the parliament, the Lok Sabha, to elect a Deputy Speaker as soon as they can. which means by delaying it for the whole 5-year term is definitely not acceptable, and it is against the constitutional provision very directly. And it definitely, many experts say, it definitely leads to undermining the constitutional intent and risks creating a constitutional vacuum in the Lok Sabha as a democratic institution. So that is another implication of not having the office of deputy, not having anyone in the office of the deputy speaker. So these are the 2 points. Another very good point which is put forward by experts is the erosion of democratic balance and democratic values. Now, how it is eroding the democratic balance? See, traditionally we have seen that conventionally, on the basis of convention, not on the basis of constitution, but on the basis of convention, the post of deputy speaker is offered to a person from opposition. Now, if a person from opposition is not offered the post and the post remains vacant, the balance between the opposition and the ruling party won't be maintained. So because smooth functioning of a democracy can only be ensured if ruling party and opposition, they can balance each other out. Definitely opposition would criticize the ruling party. That is their work to do, and that is what they will do. They would oppose the policies of the government. They will constructively criticize the government's policies. But there needs to be an amicable consensus between the opposition and the ruling party as well. Recently, we saw during the time of Operation Sindoor, when opposition and the government united. But in parliament, when laws for the country are to be passed, in that case, we see usually opposition totally against the government.
वक्फ बिल फ्रीडम ऑफ रिलीजन पर आक्रमण है.
And opposition several times trying to halt the bills as well.
मैं गांधी की तरह इस कानून को फाड़ता हूं. ये अनकॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल है सर.
And ruling party on the other hand trying to pass bills in a very hurried fashion.
क्या धमकाना चाहते हो भाई? संसद का कानून है, सबको स्वीकार करना पड़ेगा.
In this case, it paves very well, or it shows parliament of our country, Lok Sabha in our country, and in the outside world in a very bad light. And because deputy speaker's position is not there, the harmony between opposition and ruling party in the parliament, it is undermined. And the harmonious correlation and the harmonious cooperation which both of them, the ruling party and opposition, should have, they are not having. One of the reason is that deputy speaker's position is vacant. Otherwise, in the discussions where speaker and deputy speaker would discuss, deputy speaker would put forward the opinion of the opposition and government might incorporate or include it. But since deputy speaker in itself is not present, the opposition keeps on putting their view in the parliament and Lok Sabha at large, and the discussion in Lok Sabha, the quality of discussion gets eroded. First is that the discussion is not able to take place because of the frequent disruption in both of the houses. Second is the quality of debate has also gone down. And this is again, several constitutional experts have highlighted that the quality of debates in Lok Sabha in the last 15, 20, 30 years has come down as compared to the debates which happened in the initial constituent assembly, or which used to take place in the initial 20, 30 years of our country. And one such reason for that is the absence of deputy speaker's position, or no one being the deputy speaker of the Lok Sabha currently, and the position lying vacant. So that is another very deep and very important implication. Now, from all the points we have already discussed, we can simply summarize that due to the vacuum in Lok Sabha, because of this, there is definitely a undermining of consensus-driven politics, consensus-driven governance in the country. We are undermining that because of not having anyone in the position of deputy speaker. So we've discussed about the issue in brief. Now let us discuss a bit of historical background. In 1921, two individuals, Frederick White and Sachidanand Sinha, they were appointed by the Governor General of India at that time as the first speaker and the first deputy speaker, respectively, of the Central Legislative Assembly. Now, at that time, they were not called as Speaker and Deputy Speaker. They were called as President and Deputy President of the Central Legislative Assembly. And one more important and interesting fact over here is that in the year 1925, one Indian named as Vittal Bhai J. Patel became the first Indian and the first elected Speaker of the Central Legislative Assembly. The first Indian to be the Speaker of the Central Legislative Assembly in India in 1925 was Vittal Bhai J. Patel. And the first Speaker and the Deputy Speaker of Independent India was G.V. Mavalankar and Ananthasayam Iyengar. Now, G.V. Mavalankar, he also held the post of Speaker in the Constituent Assembly as well. And even after that, in the Provisional Parliament, and even after that, when he became the Speaker of Lok Sabha in Independent India, continuously he remained Speaker for over a decade. So from 1946 to 1956, he remained as the Speaker of Lok Sabha. And the first Deputy Speaker was Ananthasayam Iyengar. of independent India. This is some historical background which we need to know. Now, since we have discussed a lot about the issue, we have discussed about the historical background as well. Now, the question which might be lingering in your mind is, what is the solution? What is the reform? Should there be some changes in the constitution? Should Supreme Court intervene in this case? Or what should be done in order to ensure? See, one thing is very clear, that deputy speaker's post being vacant is not a good sign. Everyone in consensus we can agree that it is wrong, it is bad. So what is the solution to remediate this thing? The solutions can be multi-pronged. One set of people, one set of experts, they say that this prolonged vacancy, it makes us question that should constitution be amended or not. So one question is that should we amend the Constitution of India and have a stricter deadline for the election of deputy speakers? That deadline should be there in the first 180 days or in the first 90 days of the Lok Sabha being formed, new Lok Sabha being formed. That can be one suggestion. That to introduce a timeline in the constitution itself, that in how many days speaker and deputy speaker's election should be there. Now this could help in reinforcing compliance and help in continuity as well. But again, there's a question, to what extent which government would do so? Is the current government going to come up with such a law? The answer we don't know, but still it is questionable. That is the current government going to come up with such a law which gives them a timeline, a deadline for holding the elections in the Lok Sabha for the deputy speaker. That is questionable. Also, alternatively, we can say that Honorable Supreme Court of India can intervene in this case. Recently, we saw Honorable Supreme Court of India intervening in case of governors of the states, where governors were not passing the bills and stalling the bills for indefinite period of time. So in case of governor and president, Honorable Supreme Court of India set a deadline that under how many days you need to pass a certain bill. In this case as well, probably Supreme Court of India can intervene and set a timeline for the elections of deputy speaker to be held in the Lok Sabha. That can probably be done. So these are the two remedial measures which at this point of time we can see and can be done to ensure that in future this type of event does not take place. See, one thing till now, whatever discussion we have done might be very clear in your mind that the position of deputy speaker is not a symbolic one. It is an integral position. It is an important position, which is why our constitution makers of our country wanted the elections to be held as soon as they may. So which is why we need to understand that deputy speaker's office is a critical cog in the electoral machinery, in the parliamentary machinery of our country. And also neglecting it, we need to understand neglecting it violates explicitly the principles enshrined in the constitution of our country. And also it diminishes the spirit of a democratic resilience as well to a great extent. And it underpins the Indian Republic and it makes us show in the world in a bad light. Which is why we need to solve this situation at the earliest. We need to make sure that the deputy speaker of the country is elected as soon as possible and is elected soon, and the functioning of the Lok Sabha, the quality of debates, the extent of debates and the number of days the Lok Sabha meets, it improves, and the coordination, cooperation between the ruling party and the opposition, which is a very large issue, ruling party and opposition's coordination and cooperation in Lok Sabha, it improves. If that is ensured, definitely India and Lok Sabha, which is a beacon of parliamentary democracy in the world, would be shown in a very good light and would set an example for all the parliamentary democracy in the entire world. I hope you gained a new perspective from this session. All the very best and have a beautiful day. Thank you.